BBC News at 6 o'clock. This is Diana Speed. Good evening. Nigel Farage has said the Brexit Party will field a candidate in every seat in Great Britain unless the Prime Minister abandons his withdrawal deal. Boris Johnson has rejected Mr Farage's ultimatum and dismissed Donald Trump's claim that his Brexit deal could jeopardise a trade agreement between the UK and the US. A second man is facing charges of manslaughter after 39 people were found dead in a refrigerated lorry in Essex. The judge leading the inquiry into the contaminated blood scandal has said some of those affected are living in grinding hardship. Indian officials have declared a public health emergency in Delhi and begun issuing face masks to millions of children because of air pollution. Also in this bulletin, defeat for Warren Gatland in his final match in charge of Wales. And England expects a big following at the Rugby World Cup final tomorrow. Nigel Farage has launched the Brexit Party's election campaign, calling on Boris Johnson to join what he called a Leave alliance and abandon the deal he's made with the EU. Mr Farage warned that if the Prime Minister failed to do so, the Conservatives would face a fight for Leave votes, with the Brexit Party fielding candidates in every constituency in England, Scotland and Wales. But in his first BBC interview since the start of the campaign, Mr Johnson rejected the idea of an alliance, saying it would simply make a Labour government more likely. This report is from our political correspondent, Ian Watson.
Nigel Farage denounced both the main UK parties for their role in delaying Brexit, and he made clear that his party would be targeting Labour-held seats which had voted to leave. He believes that the Brexit Party can reach parts of the UK the Conservatives simply cannot reach. Places where, as he put it, for cultural reasons, Leave supporters would never vote Tory but might back him. He appeared to offer an olive branch to Boris Johnson, but then quickly whacked him with it. He could give the Prime Minister an electoral pact, but only if Boris Johnson dropped the very agreement with the EU that he'd just negotiated.
Drop the deal because it's not Brexit. Drop the deal because as these weeks go by and people discover what it is that you've signed up to, they will not like it. If Boris said that he now wanted to go down the route of a genuine free trade agreement, in the interest of building a Leave alliance, I would be more than happy to back that.
He said if his conditions weren't met, the Brexit Party would field candidates in every seat in England, Scotland and Wales. But Downing Street has made it clear there's no interest in a pact. In his BBC interview, Boris Johnson extolled the virtues of his deal with the EU, claiming it would allow all singing, all dancing trade deals. And he said a vote for the Brexit Party may have unintended consequences.
I want to be very, very clear that voting for any other party than this government, this Conservative government, this one nation Conservative government, is basically tantamount to putting Jeremy Corbyn in.
Labour sources believe that they could benefit from a split in Leave vote in around 40 seats if the Brexit Party does compete across the country. But privately, some Conservatives believe the best reason for shunning a pact with Nigel Farage is that his party could take just enough votes from Leave supporters in Labour-held seats to allow the Tories to triumph. The Shadow Minister, John Trickett, insisted that Labour was the only party which could appeal to Remainers and Leavers alike.
To the country as a whole, what we're saying is whether you Remain or Leave, there's a route through for you by voting Labour. For the other parties, it's either one side or the other. It's very divisive. And one of the things we want to do is to try to reunify quite an angry country.
It's not yet clear how far Brexit, rather than traditional loyalties, will determine the election result. With the idea of a Leave alliance spurned by the Conservatives, some seats in England will see four-way fights, making the outcome particularly tricky to predict.
It's unclear whether the Conservatives or Labour would be hit hardest by the Brexit Party fielding candidates across Britain. The polling expert Sir John Curtis believes that, based on the performance of Nigel Farage's former party UKIP in the last general election, it could be the Tories that stand to lose the most.
In the 2017 election, when the UKIP vote collapsed, the Conservative Party did very well in the most Leave voting parts of the country. And the Conservative vote became much more of a Leave vote than it had been in 2015. So to that extent, at least, a campaign like the Brexit Party, whose vote comes virtually entirely from Leave voters, is almost bound to hurt the Conservatives more than Labour.
Our correspondent Helena Wilkinson has been to Thurrock, a Conservative-held marginal seat where the Brexit Party could make gains.
This is Conservative land. Jackie Doyle-Price, the MP, has held the seat here since 2010. But it's a Labour Conservative marginal. In 2017, the majority was just over 300 votes. When it comes to Brexit, they voted out at the referendum in 2016. In fact, Thurrock had one of the highest proportions of people who backed Leave in the country, 72.3%. So, a key target area for the Brexit Party. But if a candidate was put up here, would it change the way people voted? Who did you vote for last time in the election?
Conservative.
Is Brexit an issue for you?
Absolutely, 100%. My vote this time will be purely on the party that will get us out of the European Union.
So it's a yes from you if Nigel Farage put up a candidate, the Brexit Party put a candidate up here?
Only if it was guaranteed they would get in.
This man voted Conservative at the last election. Who will you vote for this time?
That's a difficult one. Probably Conservative, but I'm a bit concerned about Nigel Farage's latest tactic about trying to split the vote, so a bit concerned there, really.
Well, I was going to ask you, if the Brexit Party put up a candidate here, would you be swayed to vote for them?
No.
Why not?
I think that a hard Brexit is potentially damaging for the economy. I think we've just got nothing in place for a hard Brexit, and as a small business owner, that really concerns me.
But others say they would vote for a Brexit Party candidate.
Everyone I talk to, they're all going to go for Brexit because they think the Tory government done wrong by not passing it through. And to have another election, why?
For Nigel Farage, it's now his challenge to try to turn areas like this one, which voted overwhelmingly to Leave, into success at the election in December.
In his BBC interview, the Prime Minister rejected Donald Trump's claim, made in a radio interview with Nigel Farage yesterday, that his Brexit deal could jeopardise a trade agreement between the UK and the US. He also insisted that the Brexit impasse at Westminster had left him with no choice but to call a general election. Mr Johnson was speaking to our political editor, Laura Koonsberg.
Once upon a time, advice from a US president might have been helpful to a Prime Minister fighting an election, lending gravitas and credibility